Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are starting our Path 2 series for the Baltimore. That's right, we're not just doing the battleships, guys. We have finished all of the battleship lines, Path 2 series, so we are starting on the cruisers. And I figure I'll just go left to right, so we're just going to start from the Americans and move all the way across. Okay, so if you want your favorite ship, don't worry, it's gonna be coming. But we are not gonna be doing tier 1s and 2s because honestly it's just a waste of time and it doesn't really affect anything. You play like one battle, you're off of tier 1, you play like 4 battles, you're off of tier 2. So there's no sense in me doing videos on these two ships. However, we start at tier 3, we've got the Phoenix. Now, with that being said, let's get into our commanders. Now, as always, the very first video in the series, it's going to be a little bit longer because we're going to go over multiple builds. But the builds that I use for my light cruisers on the Americans is as follows. We have Norman Scott with Isiroko Yamamoto and Azure Lane Scharnhorst as our commanders. Inspirations. We are running Beyond Range, Igniter, Punch Through, Fixated, and Equilibrium of Power. Yes, I still use Equilibrium of Power for light cruisers, just because Equilibrium of Power allows the HE to actually penetrate thicker armor, meaning you get more damage, even if your fire chance is cut in half. But, what other commander builds are there? Well, other than Norman Scott, which is the best commander, Azure Lane Baltimore is going to be making an appearance. Azure Lane Baltimore's base trait gives you improved rudder shift, which is always nice for a cruiser because being able to get out of the way of incoming shells is important when it's battleship shooting at you. Norman Scott as our inspiration for that extra shell grouping for cruisers' main guns, and then Isiroko Yamamoto once again. You'll see that I love buffing the armor penetration and the dispersion of my cruisers, or at least the Americans, because you just can't overstate how useful it is. Now, that being said, we are running Beyond Range, we are running Igniter. We are using her special trait, which is the Absolute Ammunition, which is a reduced cruiser shell fuse timer, which increases the armor penetration, which is funny, and it also decreases the amount of time it takes for the shell to penetrate, or to explode. So, it's less likely to overpin the cruisers. So, when you get to the American heavy cruisers, you tend to overpin them with your 203mm super heavy rounds, which the Balti gets super heavy rounds, the other ones get regular rounds, but I digress. You tend to overpin. So having this skill in particular, not only do you not lose armor penetration, because it actually does still give you 5% bonus to AP shell penetration, which you get a 5% bonus with your punch through ability. You do lose a little bit of damage per salvo. However, being able to Citadel rather than overpin is huge later on. Okay, so keep that in mind. Fixated and fully packed is what I run on my heavy cruisers. All right, but that's a specialty build. The other one, I'm trying to think who is the other commander. I think it's Kincaid, isn't it? And I never use this commander, as you can see. He's only leveled up because of the Bureau. But as you can see, auditory stimulus increases the sonar reload, or decreases the sonar reload time. Again, I would use Isiroko Yamamoto and Norman Scott as our inspirations here, and then probably run Burn It Down XXL. Or Ingenious. Ingenious gives you the amount of people shooting at you or targeting you, so that comes in handy. But honestly, meh. And then you're not going to need to worry about torpedoes. You can generally dodge them pretty easily. So increasing the rudder shift and maximum speed is always a good thing. Here I would probably take the sponge incoming damage, but you could also do this skill armed and ready for the incoming fire dispersion, if that's something you're interested in. Making people less likely to hit you is a good idea. Also, I think I said this wrong. No, Ingenious and this do the same thing. Interesting. Other than this increases your incoming fire dispersion. But steer clear or acoustic chamber, might as well grab the extra sonar, and then you can choose either fully packed or equilibrium of power. If you're running a heavy cruiser, you don't need equilibrium of power. If you're running a heavy cruiser, it's almost always going to be fully packed. If you're running a light cruiser, you may go with the equilibrium for that extra penetration on your HE. Okay, and there's one last guy, which I believe is Einstein, which I, again, have never used. Yeah, Einstein. So Einstein's increased main battery traverse speed for your cruiser. Again, not something that's really needed because the ships turn pretty well, and you can turn the ship rather than have to turn the turrets. So, personally, I don't see this as a big thing, which is, again, why I haven't really done much with him. But he's kind of a little bit of everything, Commander. He has Beyond Range, he has Ingenious, he has Igniter, he also has Intuitive. Like, he's got the Sponge or the Punch Through. He's got acoustic chambers, and he's also got fixated. So you can pretty much set this up for whatever you want with Einstein. All right? His 2 refill station and by the book, meh. So I don't really care for those. But I've already went over the builds, so I use Norman Scott, obviously. Let's look at our equipment. Aiming Systems Mod 1 is our equipment that we will be running in Slot 1 for the entire duration of this series. We are fully upgraded, as you can see. Loadout. You do get torpedoes, which is interesting because you don't get torpedoes very long in the American line. You get torpedoes for Tier 3 and Tier 4, and then they're gone. Okay? So keep that in mind. I'm not running any boosters. I am running the Type 3 camo, which gives us a -3% to detectability and a +3% to incoming fire dispersion. And then, of course, I am running the community contributor flag. Stats. We have 24,000 hit points. Notice no torpedo reduction. Okay. Artillery. You have 152mm Mark 14s. 10 of those that reach out to 14.1 kilometers. Reload in just 7 seconds. 180-degree turn time is 18 seconds. HE shells are maximum damage of 1914 with a 7.5% chance to set fires, and the AP shell maximum damage is 3,410. Torpedoes. You have 6 torpedoes, 3 per side of the ship. They are 533 millimeters. They reload in just 66 seconds. The 180-degree torp time is 6 seconds. It's always super fast. Maximum damage is 11,733. The detectability is only 1.1 kilometers. The torpedo range is pretty bad at 5.5 kilometers. And torpedo speed also pretty bad at 56 knots. AA defense. You don't really have any AA this early on. 12.7mm Browning M2s. You got 4 of those doing 14 damage per second, reaching out to 1.2 kilometers. Then you've got the 28mm Mark II Mod 2s that you have 8 of, doing 14 damage per second, reaching out to 3.1 kilometers. And you've got the 76.2mm Mark 10s that you have 4 of, doing 8 damage per second, reaching out to 3 kilometers. So we don't even have dual-purpose main batteries yet. Maneuverability. Maximum speed, 35 knots with a 630-meter turning circle, which isn't the greatest, but isn't terrible. 5.4-second rudder shift is pretty good. Concealment. Detectability by sea is 10 kilometers. Detectability by air is 6.2. Guaranteed is always 2, and the detectability while firing in smoke, 4.6 kilometers. Armor. This is where you're going to struggle initially. You have to learn early on as a cruiser commander, especially if you're going up the, well, pretty much all lines. Let's just get that out of the way. All cruiser commanders need to learn very early on that your arch nemesis is battleships. When they shoot at you, don't trust your armor. Get out the way. All right? Use your mobility, your maneuverability, get out of the way rather than trying to use the armor to deflect rounds, because you don't really have any, especially early on. So as you can see, we've got 10 millimeters of bow plating, which means pretty much everything overmatches it. You will get absolutely punished. That would be anything above 143 millimeters, I believe. It'd be 10 millimeters times 14.3, so yeah, it'd be 143 millimeters. can overmatch you. So not everything other than destroyers basically can overmatch you, or very small cruisers like the Atlanta, small gun cruisers like the Atlanta, which only has 127s as well. All right, so if we move on, you can see that she's got an issue, and that issue is her citadel is raised well above the waterline. Also, because you don't have any armor, anytime you're angled, these shells are going to punch right through, and if you're angled, they're going to find their way to the citadel, meaning at pretty much any angle, you can be citadeled, especially by battleships. So keep that in mind. I will show you how to kind of avoid, for the most part, getting smashed, but we will also showcase the weakness of that citadel as well. Overview. She's fast, above average maximum movement speed. She's agile. She's got above average ability to change direction. She's compromising. Higher caliber AP shells may overpin the armor, but may still arm, depending on shell velocity. Speaking of that, we didn't really talk about the side plating here. Where was it? Like I don't think you can really see it, to be honest. Yeah, it's just showing the plating on the citadel. Let me see. You got 37 millimeters on the citadel proper, and then you've got an extra plate, the citadel armor belt, which is 76 mil. Which means, if you angle that properly, you're not going to get pinned right there. However, again, like I said, it's a raised citadel, and if you're relying on that to try to stop rounds from detonating you, you're going to have a bad time. Okay? Phoenix, a scout cruiser design whose distinctive features were very high speeds and a torpedo armament. In contrast to most cruisers over time, the cruiser's artillery was placed in open mounts. Phoenix never materialized, but served as a prototype for the development of the Omaha-class cruisers. She was designed in 1916, never built. So yeah, the first thing you're going to notice if you look at this and look at the Omaha is it's basically the same sort of design here. The only thing is, I believe this front mount here in between the four guns that you see is going to get replaced with a twin gun, if I remember correctly. But yeah, other than that, it's basically an Omaha. Okay, so with that being said, let's take a look at her. It's an old design. You can tell by how much of the ship is sticking out of the water and all of the extra stacks due to the fact that she needed the extra speed. So all the boilers. But yeah, I mean, not a bad looking cruiser, not the best looking cruiser, but not bad. And with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Archipelago, and we are in the Phoenix. Now, I think this match here, even though it's not the most damage in the world, still showcases the ship pretty well, because it's going to showcase the maneuverability, the waggle that you use early on with the St. Louis and this thing to really increase the amount of firepower that you can bring to bear, because it can get pretty crazy. You have 6 guns over the bow of this thing, which is ridiculous in and of itself. But we are going to push forward, and I'm going to showcase not only the HE in this, but also the AP. And the American AP, even in a light cruiser, is very, very dangerous. And you cannot sleep on these ships. And I don't know why everybody, like, a lot of people don't like the Phoenix and the Omaha because they are so squishy. But they are really only squishy against other battleships. Like, against battleships. Battleships shoot these ships pretty much anywhere they get citadels if you're not paying attention. So you gotta take care of yourself. We're gonna showcase some of that later on. But initially, we're gonna push forward behind our destroyer. We've got HE loaded because we don't know what we're gonna run into first. Usually it'll be a destroyer that doesn't know what he's doing. So you're just ready for that. But what you're going to see is that we're going to see some cruisers get spotted first, and a couple of people are going to be AFK in this, so keep that in mind. I don't know what happened. There was at least 2 people here that spawned directly across from me that was AFK, but it gives me a chance to showcase just just how nasty this ship can be in a cruiser fight. Now, this thing isn't meant to be I'm gonna sit there and slug it out with a battleship, okay? This ship is meant to be keep your distance, work them over time. Now, against cruisers, absolutely get up in there and punch these guys, because the cruisers, you will citadel the snot out of them. We're gonna showcase it on this Phoenix that's AFK first. Watch this shot here. You've got great accuracy from the guns, and immediately get 2 citadels. That's what I'm talking about. Now, unfortunately, we're going to drift behind the island a little bit too far. But, yeah, you don't play around with these ships. The American ships, in general, have the best AP in the game. Period. Like, I don't know how many times I've got to say it. Like, American armor piercing in this game is really, really good. It doesn't matter if it's light cruisers, destroyers, battleships, heavy cruisers. They all have amazing armor piercing. And to see everybody only shoot HE out of them is pretty upsetting sometimes. But we're going to go ahead and showcase some of the maneuverability. We dodged that incoming torpedo from the carrier. We see the Caledon out here. We're going to go ahead and take a shot at him. Again, this guy was also AFK. I don't know why, but he is. So we're going to take the shot, see if we can't do a little bit of damage to him, and of course we can. Getting our first kill. We're also shooting down planes. Again, we don't have the best AA in the world, but nothing really does at Tier 3. We've got really good AA for the tier, and we're a light cruiser, so you're going to have decent AA. But at the end of the day, it's still basically nothing at Tier 3. You can see the the carrier is spotted off in the distance. Obviously, he's not AFK. The Tenryu, who we've already citadeled once, is starting to try to run away. We've got the AP still loaded. And this is something that I try to showcase a lot with American cruisers, is that you don't always need HE. A lot of times you can do a lot of damage to a lot of different things with AP. So learn to use it. Learn to pay attention to your hits. Like right there, we had 3 penetrations and an overpin right there. Do we need to switch to HE? Absolutely not. We're citadeling this man at 11 kilometers in a carrier. You don't need HE here. And so that's what I'm talking about. We're trying to get our shells to hit the side and go through the citadel rather than the deck. But you can see every time we do manage it, we get a citadel. And so that's why I try to tell everybody, like, you don't need to always shoot HE. Learn when to use HE, learn when to use AP, and you will be much happier and a much better player because of it. But Destroyer manages to torp him. More power to him. We've got the Tenryu here, and we're going to showcase a little bit of bullying here on this Tenryu. He's got no chance. This guy never had a chance, never had a car. Like, we just completely, absolutely murdered this man. We citadel him early. He runs into the center of the map. He's trying to hide. We're able to lob the island, and we're using armor piercing, so even when we lob the island, we're able to score citadels on him and just keep punching him in the mouth. As you can see, another citadel right there. And that forces him out from behind his island. He's going to run right into the torpedoes of our destroyer. Our destroyers are having a heck of a game, but there's not a whole lot I can do about it. I have to wait for him to clear the island. I take the shots, and he does manage to take the V-25 torpedo. And that's when we get into open water engagements versus a battleship. Now, we fire the AP a couple times here just because I want to test it out, see how it does. Kaiser, very tanky, we know this, but because these shells are so flighty, the American light cruisers, the shells go really, really high arcs, which is why you can lob the islands and stuff. It's like an orbital strike, man. You can lob over just about everything. But it also means that you get really good plunging fire against the deck armor of ships. And sometimes, if you're at the right distance, you can actually score citadels with armor piercing through the deck of very tanky battleships. So that's why I say test the armor piercing out. If you get a bunch of shatters, just switch. You're only wasting like 7 seconds. Like, these guns reload really quickly. But we were forced to go around the island here, and we're about to get into an engagement. We're kind of trading back and forth between the St. Louis and the Kaiser, just doing what we can to try to soften everybody up. Normally I would have AP loaded for the St. Louis, but because we're shooting the Kaiser as well, We've got the HE already loaded, no sense in wasting, and we get a fire immediately, even with equilibrium of power, which is why I say you don't really need to worry too much about equilibrium of power dropping your fire chances. Does it suck sometimes? Sure. But most of the time, RNG for fires is going to be RNG for fires. Now here, we got very lucky that he manages to overpin all of these because we were angled to him and we weren't paying attention when he fired his guns. So we fired the AP at him, and then we're going to switch back over to high explosive, and we actually missed him. We got 2 ricochets in that last salvo. But now we're going to start doing the waggle dance. I don't know how else to call it. We got the Dreadnought Shuffle. I guess we'll give it the Phoenix Waggle. But yeah, we're going to just start rotating our ship from left side to right side, back to left side. And every time we do that, we're going to be able to basically keep our guns firing forever. Like, just look at the amount of firepower we can put out by doing this. It's pretty insane. Now, you do have to be careful because this Kaiser is going to be able to punch us in the mouth and catch us here in a moment. You can see he fires his guns. It's pretty accurate. We slow down and we manage to dodge. Then he fires the rest of his guns and catches us and gets 1 Citadel for 8,100 and then an overpin for 810. So you got to be careful. That just showcases that Citadel that we were talking about. We've already got our high caliber. We're doing all the things that we need to do. We've got 9 Citadels in this. We've got a couple of fires started. Kaiser's being chased off the map. There's nothing he can do about it. He's just unrelenting. Now, you'll see that because of that, I turned away. He's obviously focusing me. I don't want him to score more hits, so we're going to, you know, increase the distance, and that's going to give me more time to get out of the way of his shells. As you can see, he completely missed us. So now we're going to continue our fight, and we get another fire, and this is what I'm talking about. Equilibrium of power reduces your fire chance by half, still getting plenty of fires. So that's why I don't personally mind the equilibrium of power dropping your fire chance by 5%. Some games, it's just like you could never get a fire. But other games, you get just as many fires as you always would have anyway. So I don't know. It's just one of those things, I guess. But we're going to continue fighting. They managed to take out the other battleship, so the Kaiser is the only thing left. We're at 80,000 damage done in a light cruiser at Tier 3. Like, you can't really argue with it. It's not a bad cruiser. It's got nice speed, nice maneuverability, decent AA for what it is, even though AA is basically useless at Tier 3. And it's got a lot of guns. And as long as you learn who and when you can turn broadside, you know, you're going to be fine. You just got to pay attention. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be the theme for the entire play. But 83,000 damage, high cal, top of the leaderboard, 1,784 base XP with 2 kills. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.